Trouble shies away from no animal, and oftentimes they turn to us humans for help. Luckily for them, there are plenty of kind people willing to do whatever they can to help a struggling creature in need. If you're looking to restore your faith in humanity, be sure to stay until the end. Let's get it on! If the amount of road safety taught in schools is anything to go by, traffic is pretty scary. But it's not just people who worry about crossing the road. After all, the phrase deer in the headlights didn't come from nowhere. Luckily for the deers though, there are people who are willing to help them get across the road. And that's a really good thing, because this one might never have got the courage to go on its own. You never know who you're going to meet on a walk in the park. These people made an unexpected friend when a little squirrel came right up to them. It didn't want to chat though, it was actually hoping for a sip of water. When it got what it wanted, it happily skipped off to carry on with its day. I'm definitely taking a bottle of water with me next time I go to the park. You know, just in case. Even the wildest animals can get pretty tame when they find themselves in trouble. I don't know how this fox got its head stuck in a jar, but there was no way it could get out on its own. Luckily, it found some people walking along the road to help. How could you ever refuse? Is it just me, or does it look like it turns back to say thank you? We all have those friends who refuse to ask for help. The ones who insist they can do everything themselves, even though that's not true for anyone. It can be pretty dangerous lending them a helping hand, and it takes bravery to face that unnecessary anger, especially when it's coming from a sea lion. But persist anyway. Eventually, they'll thank you. We all make mistakes. Simple wrong turn and you can find yourself in a pretty dicey situation, so it's always good to have a few friends on hand to bail you out. After all, a shallow swamp isn't the ideal living space for a giant leatherback turtle, but these people were ready and willing to help it out and point it in the right direction, back into a place that's more suited to its incredible size. Any parent will know how easily kids get themselves into trouble. It's bound to happen. They're curious and don't understand the world yet. That's true for animals too. These Russian fishermen stumbled across not one, but two bear cubs while on their boat. They would have drowned if these people hadn't stopped to help them. Luckily, they got to the boat and their brave saviors carried them to safety. The ocean can be a pretty dangerous place, even for its inhabitants. These guys were out on their boat when they spotted a huge tiger shark trying to eat a turtle. The turtle took its opportunity to free itself, but the shark wasn't giving up so easily. The men stepped in though and quickly lifted the turtle onto the boat, out of reach of the circling shark. It was then driven to a new safe place, at bay from any other hungry sharks. If we learned anything from people getting tied to train tracks in the movies, it's that sometimes saving someone can be pretty dangerous. This group of cyclists were willing to take that risk when they came across this stag that had fallen into the flooded ruins of an old building. The stag was exhausted, but could still easily have hurt them, but they were determined to save him, and they all lived happily ever after. Not all animals can swim, but sometimes the ones you least expect are the ones that are actually pretty good at it. I'm talking about sloths. This particular one may have been a little too good though. He found himself stranded pretty far from the shore in a high boat traffic area, so he was seriously happy to accept the offer of a free ride from one of these concerned boaters. Looks like a fun day out. Saving animals often requires people to risk life and limb, but that's usually because the animal itself is dangerous. It's not usually because you have to take on several lanes of traffic to pick up a perfectly harmless tortoise. This man wasn't going to leave that poor tortoise out there to fend for itself, though. They never expected to be a taxi for a tortoise that day, but it's not a bad reason to go out. Sometimes things go so wrong that we don't even have a moment to wonder how things escalated in the first place. When these people found this goat hanging by its horns from a telephone wire, they acted fast. They had to invent a pretty unusual method to get it down, but luckily they were successful. Even the goat looks like it has no clue what just happened, so we'll definitely never know. It can be super difficult to rescue a cat that's stuck up a tree, so imagine just how much more difficult it is when the cat is actually a cougar. These skilled rescuers somehow carried the tranquilized cougar down a ladder like it was a cute fluffy kitty. Sure, the tranquilizer stops the big cat from lashing out, but there's no way it makes for a lighter load. Just because you have good intentions doesn't mean you're always able to help. Luckily, this man had exactly the right tool for the job. He found a baby deer stuck in some deep mud on an excavation site. It's safe to say anyone who had gone in to get them would have found themselves stuck too. But the person who found them happened to have incredible digger skills and could help the baby to safety. Some people are born with the courage and heart to rescue animals. When this 11-year-old found a small shark trapped in a rock pool during low tide, the rescuer instinct kicked in. The little shark was carried across the rocks and placed safely back into the ocean the same way most kids would carry a puppy up the stairs. I guess some people are just braver than others. The clumsy people among us are going to sympathize with this one. You know when things go so wrong that you find yourself literally upside down and completely stuck? This bird does. All he did was get his toe a little stuck. It shouldn't have been such a big deal. Luckily, someone came along that was willing to help get him back on his feet. Hopefully, you clumsy people have that person too. Nobody likes mud. Just think about the last time you stepped on some ground and realized you were up to your ankles in it. If you've ever experienced that, then you might have an idea of how this kangaroo felt. Some excavators were on hand to help him though. Cleverly, they worked out that removing some mud from around the kangaroo would help it free itself, and they were right. It hopped to safety and even stopped to thank the digger. When the summer gets hot enough, we all feel the heat. Of course, if you're lucky enough to be a human, you can just grab an ice cream or a cool drink. But if you're an eagle, you have to fly in the hot sun to find water. This eagle had a better idea. It decided to ask for a drink from some people out on a walk, and he got a bonus shower in the process. They say charity begins at home, but that might be more literal than anyone realized. There might just be a small creature hiding in your backyard that needs your help. In this case, it was a little baby hedgehog that had got stuck in a can. It would never have gotten out on its own, so it's a good thing someone came looking for this little animal. We all know how famous people are treated differently, but it seems like that applies for animals too. These penguins are the stars of the show Dynasties, a kind of Keeping Up with the Penguins type show. When they got stuck in this dip in the snow, the crew did something nature documentarians never do. They decided to save every one of them. Good choice, and I'm sure the penguins will be forever grateful. Curiosity killed the cat, they say, but that might just be the wrong animal for that saying. After all, honey badgers exist, and they have a special knack for finding themselves in strange situations. This one got itself stuck inside a tree while exploring, and luckily safari rangers were on hand to help save the day. Sure, the honey badger doesn't look too pleased about having to be rescued, but it's pretty lucky the rangers weren't looking to be thanked. Saving protected species has become a part of our culture, but usually that doesn't happen quite so face-to-face. When these brave fishermen accidentally caught a baby great white, they were determined to set it free while onlookers cheered them on. It wasn't so easy though. They needed to remove the hook and then still get it back out to sea, with time ticking. They did it though, and the shark swam back into the ocean, much to the delight of everyone watching. Not being able to see is a reality for many. After losing his eyesight, this dog became too scared to walk around. But his clever owner wasn't going to let it suffer though. So he built an ingenious contraption to help his dog walk around without bumping into anything. It's amazing what we can achieve when we care about each other. We all know that dolphins are super intelligent, and that means that they're pretty good at communicating with humans. And that's a good thing, because it meant that this one was able to ask for help when it found itself stuck in a shallow river. It decided that whistling was probably the most effective way to get the attention of these people, and it definitely worked. They were more than happy to help it return to the deep.